No, I'm going to live it. Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Got an awesome show tonight. We were playing around with Midjourney, and we're showing Donald Trump as Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is a really fun thing to do. And as we wait for everybody to come in, we will keep doing this and get on to today's podcast. But first, let's check out that awesome intro.
Welcome to the Hooch, where the only place more messed up than your house is the barracks on a Friday night or the VA. So get ready to stand by for your weekly dose of toilet humor and shenanigans from your fellow veterans, Coy Mack and Michael Grizzled Grunt Harris.
Hey, and welcome to the show, everybody. You got Coy Mack here and the one, the only, Michael Harris. We are starting off the show really fun tonight. We are been playing around with Midjourney with different things today, including Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, as well as Donald Trump, our favorite. So here, check this gloriousness out. We look at Donald Trump as Obi-Wan Kenobi, trying to get various different looks of the man for sure.
That is great.
AI is amazing. I just love using this software now because like we get some of the best things out of it. Like this, I think this section looks pretty good, but it's like the force is strong.
The force is strong in me. The force is strong in you. It's a beautiful force. If you ever seen it, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
It's fantastic.
But Donald Trump has more force than any other force ever created.
The best force users.
The best force users.
Yes, we absolutely are, Barbara. We were having a great time just dicking around with this software, and we got an awesome show for you later on.
Yes.
As well as some funny TikTok videos, because we like to bring the funny on Sundays because everything's so serious nowadays, and we'd like to have our shenanigans for the weekend.
Indeed.
So, continuing our shenanigans from AI, after we got Donald Trump, we had, I was trying to do Jar Jar, like Ron DeSantis' Jar Jar, but it kicked this thing out at me. And then here's a better version of, like, we tried to make Donald Trump as Obi-Wan like this, but none of these look like Donald Trump at all. It's more like a new actor for Star Wars, but but these are the funny ones. There's a Ron DeSantis Jar Jar Binks. It did not give us exactly what we wanted, but these are gold.
Misa wants to be president. Misa make a good president. Misa better than Trump.
And so I'm the best. I am the best Rhino. Yeah, these are some pretty cool ones too. Donald Trump, Obi-Wan. It didn't really kick back anything good after that for that one, but we did get some really awesome Joe Biden as Darth Sidious though.
Ooh,
that was a really good one.
Was that Darth Sidious or Darth Vader?
That's like a mix of Darth Vader and Darth Sidious. So that, like, I don't know what Joe Biden's Sith name would be. If you want to tell us what his Sith name would be in the comments, you can go ahead and do that. That'd be great. Darth Potato. That's what Joe Biden is. He's Darth Potato.
The dog's the potato.
Now I'm gonna have to make that somehow a Darth Potato.
Yeah, Darth Potato.
But yeah, so here you got more Joe Biden as Darth Potato. But he looks too cool for me to be like Darth Potato, for sure.
Mr. Potato Head.
He's a Mr. Potato. Oh yeah, that's right. We got Joe Biden as Mr. Potato.
Potato Head. I like that bottom left.
Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah,
it's too Pixar-y for me.
Yeah, we don't want him looking that cool.
For sure. Then there's a bunch of other things I was working on today with the Kamala Harris as Freddy Krueger. I thought these were pretty good. So enjoy that feast for the eyes.
I mean, she looks evil as hell.
Oh yeah. Now this is like great like stuff for Halloween. If you want to like celebrate Kamala Harris, like this one looks like she just got out of an abortion clinic. So. So that was your joke. I stole that one.
Joe,
we did it. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Because her laughter and her like cackling is just perfect for a horror movie. That's what we need in life. Is Kamala Harris playing a horror movie villain, right? Because she's got the chops.
Freddy Krueger. Yeah. Imagine waking up with Freddy Krueger, Kamala Krueger, waking up to that.
That's what it gave me when I did like a mixture of Freddy Krueger and Kamala, some of the other ones. It's like super crazy.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I had to do some appeals in order for them to let me do this. Because like apparently they didn't like the combination of Kamala Harris and Freddy Krueger
she looks
too much.
Like freaking Indiana Jones in the bottom.
I know, right? It's brilliant, man. I love AI. Just for this alone is the best. It's the best.
It's the greatest thing ever.
It is the greatest thing ever. But
great.
enough of the AI stuff. I want to get into the funny videos on TikTok. And I was discussing with Michael this next video that I want to share with everybody. Just reminds me of all of the boots that come into the fleet and how many stupid decisions that they make in life. And once you see the video, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Oh no.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Come here. No.
Hey,
like, dude, right? Like, just don't.
I'd give him kudos for bringing that to the table. I'd be like, good job, but guess what? Stretch, because you're about to go up tickets in the ground.
That is not good, my friend.
Now, we were in a
it
time.
Might be a good time for half a minute, but that's gonna really hurt.
A time hack, you'd be like, hey, you guys got 20 minutes to put in 50 pickets, which I never did. I'd be like, man, bring out the picket pounder. It's pretty cool though. Pretty good.
Working on farms, like that's an annoying part of the job if you're having to do that manually.
Yeah,
for sure.
that.
But if that thing's pounding it in for you, that's great. But just knowing there would be some boot out there that would be using that wrongly for something, just
he replaces something in the packing list with that. You'd be like,
that's how you get a safety brief. There, there.
Where's your cold weather gear? Oh,
that's definitely how you're getting a safety brief.
Oh
though,
yeah,
for
definitely.
Sure. And then you would have to call Aflac, which is part of this next video, which is absolutely hilarious, by the way.
Oh yeah,
is when you don't pay Aflac their money. Oh no! Oh god!
Evil bird. That thing is evil.
Geese are evil things. They are spawns of Satan, I believe, for sure.
That thing is mad. Is angry.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Have you never been chased by geese?
No, because I have good energy. They don't chase me.
Oh yeah, my karma is amazing. That's why I never get chased by geese.
That's right.
Man, when I was a kid, I got chased around a pond in the middle of Fayetteville, Arkansas, by geese, and was bitten to death. Like there was like bees, like of birds, just like ducks around biting me, and like stupid cobra chickens going after me. I hated that.
The only animal I've ever been chased by was a bull in Afghanistan. I was just minding my business, standing there pulling a little security on top outside of this governor's house, whatever you want to call him, the mayor, the town leader. I'm just standing there, pulling security. And this old Afghan guy, has this freaking big bull on a 550 cord. It wasn't a rope. It was like a cord. And this bull's walking, and it stopped, and it looked at me. I looked at it, and it did that little. And I was just like, oh crap. And that thing started to chase me around the Mat V, man. I was like running back and forth, and I was like, I'll shoot it. I told him, I said, I will shoot your dang bull.
Right. So what do you remember camel spiders?
And Iraq, that's the only time I ever saw one.
Okay, so like in Afghanistan, they had the camel spiders. I want to bring that up because like just showing what a camel spider looks like is terrifying because it just kind of goes to what I was.
The camel spider, and although yes, it looks like something that would crawl out of a demon's nightmare, they're nothing to worry about whatsoever. These guys are entirely harmless, and even though on Google you'll hear stories about how they'll eat people while they sleep or how their venom will melt your flesh, that's all complete BS, because they have no venom whatsoever. They just kind of slice up their food with that wood chipper of a mouth they have, and no, that food doesn't include people or camels for that matter. In fact, a bite from a kitten would do more damage than one from this thing. There are some crazy things about them that are true though, like how they'll chase after people at 10 miles an hour. But to learn the weird reason why they do this and to see what happens when I hold one, check out my newest.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. But I was bringing that up because of the story of being chased by like geese and stuff like that, right? Like camel spiders in Afghanistan chasing you down happen fairly often. But like they said, they're not dangerous. They just look freaky as hell. Like being chased by something that big, like because they're big. They're like they get like this, like like this big, right? Like that. They're like they're big. They're big things. And being chased in the middle of the night by one of those demon spawns is crazy.
You have people in the States here in America that are scared of the daddy long legs. Imagine one of those.
That's true.
Yeah, they're like, oh my god, there's a spider in a corner. Oh my, and I get it. People have phobias and stuff. I get it. We're not attacking
Right.
phobias. I'm just saying. Imagine that thing in your house. Me personally, I don't kill spiders when they're in my house. I pick them up in a little sheet of paper and I put them outside.
Yeah.
Get outside.
I'm not particularly afraid of those. Like same thing with snakes. Like I know the difference between a poisonous snake and a non-poisonous snake, and I'll pick them up and I used to play with them as a kid. But like camel spiders, man, that's one thing that just freaks me out. I'm not gonna lie, it does. Like
there was a snake in my backyard a couple days ago, and out here where I live, there's always all types of vermin, snakes, and all types of stuff. And my husky kept going over to this part of the fence, and I kept seeing this thing like snap out. And it was a dang snake. And I had to freaking yank her back. I was like, that's the last thing I want is for you to get bit.
Right.
And then if it
that's
bit
a vet
my dog,
bill.
if it bit my dog, and then that'd be a dead snake. But I ain't usually gonna kill them. But if one of them bit my dog, yeah, I'm sorry. You got to go, team.
It's ending.
It's ending
So,
your
but
life.
like the next video I was gonna share, like the cats. The cats in this video are. I've seen this happen before with cats, where you think that just because you feed and give them places to stay, that they would do their job, but not necessarily.
3 of you. One of you get him. He's cleaning himself.
What is going on, Shannon?
And are you kidding me? Nothing? Oh my God, bro. What do I do?
Don't kill it.
Well, just
pick it up.
Smack it with your shoe. The cats are gonna do nothing.
Don't kill it.
Don't hurt him.
Pick it up and put it outside. Obviously, it's not scared. There you go. Get something.
But they're just like staring at it.
Yeah.
Well,
now they want to do something.
Now we have interests.
Are you kidding me? Now you go after him because he's trapped? You're a bully. Stop.
But that's how cats are, though. Like they're evil. They're evil little things. Like
no cats. In Egyptian times, cats were considered high up on a totem pole. Because they were said they could see into the other world.
Yeah.
And since
cats are one of the only type of animals that's self-domesticated in the world. Like dogs were domesticated by humans, but cats just kind of came in and say, "Hey, we're staying." Like we just got a permanent roommate for no reason.
We're just gonna chill over here, catch the rats.
Yeah,
that was the thing with Chihuahuas. Chihuahuas originate in Mexico, and they were used to chase out vermin and rats in the temples and the houses.
Yep.
And there's some vicious little things.
Oh man, I had that up. I gotta find that video. My wife sent this to me, and it's actually absolutely brilliant. And I love Full Metal Jacket. It's one of my favorite movies. So anytime I get to hear the famous line in there, "Let me see your war face," it's just absolutely amazing.
Oh, I
so
love
check this out.
Let me see your war face.
Oh,
do it again. Do it again.
Let me see your war face.
They're so cute.
It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, man.
I mean, Chihuahuas, man, they're very protective and they're very vocal. But you want a perfect lap dog? Get yourself a Chihuahua, man. They will freaking imprint on you like no other. And once they imprint, that's it. No one can touch you. No one can come around you. They are very protective. And my Petunia.
It depends on the type of Chihuahua you get, because if you get that one Chihuahua that just bites all the time, this is terrible. Like, it doesn't hurt, but it's really annoying.
It depends on how you raise your dogs too, man.
That's true.
Of that. It depends on how you treat them, how you raise them. So mine, she only gets like that if a stranger is around that she doesn't know. But outside of that, she's never bit me. She's never did anything like that. She's never snapped at me. She's never growled at me. And she's so little, like she's always shaking and shit. Demon rat.
Violently shaking because they can't keep themselves warm.
Just always shaking. Just always shaking. Oh man, but she's a good dog.
No, I mean, Chihuahuas have always been a really good pet for, like, especially a lap dog. If you want to get something that's going to stay in your lap and you can actually pet, Chihuahuas are good. They'll stay loyal to you.
And they're actually very smart, man. Like they learn really fast. So it's a good dog to have. Get yourself a Chihuahua.
Yeah, you should definitely do that.
Yeah.
Next video, also pretty funny. Since we've been talking about Dylan Mulvaney and the Budweiser controversy, apparently he came out as being a lesbian now, apparently. Which I thought he was a gay man pretending to be a woman, but apparently he's now a straight man pretending to be a woman. So I guess that's where we're at now. But this video breaks down how this works perfectly well.
Dylan Mulvaney, the trans person who brought down Bud Light, has now come out as a lesbian.
So for this mathematical equation, D's will be represented by D because dudes come with D. He's a dude with a D who represents as a chick, but still has a D, so therefore chick over, but is now attracted to chicks who have V's because chicks only have V's. Now the problem is you can't add this equation together because the LCDs are not equal. D's and V's are not equal to one another. So to solve the equation, we take the dude with a D who thinks he's a chick with a D, and we invert it. We add V over chick. Now all we have to do is cancel out the chicks. Now, D's and V's are not equal to one another, but D's can go into V's. So now the equation becomes dude with a D equals D into V. And logically speaking, if D's go into V's, you get S. S equals straight.
Right?
Yep. Hey,
Just
look,
making
it,
woke math.
We've been, a lot of people have been saying this. We've been saying it. We said it on our other podcast that this dude is acting. I believe that he's acting.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think
he only
he
could
is.
put on his act for so much longer before he's like, look, they paid me a lot of money. I'm an actor. So yeah, you know, you're just telling us he's going to slowly but surely start telling us what he is. And then next thing you know, he's a lesbian. He's going to start dressing like, you know, one of those, what do they call them? The stud. And then he's going to say, well, you know, I'm a stud lesbian. And he's going to start dressing like a dude again.
I'm going to be a butch lesbian. And now I'm just a man again.
Watch. He's going to dress like,
but he's going to be a straight man instead of a gay man, which doesn't make sense to me, but all right, whatever. That's just how the world works.
He's tired of acting. He's tired. Dylan Mulvaney got married.
I'm tired of all this nonsense, man.
Dylan Mulvaney got married to his girlfriend. Oh, he's straight. And now he's...
Oh, you mean he's in a heterosexual relationship with really weird fetishes? Okay,
you
got
don't
it.
see that. He's going to turn... He's a lesbian. And then, like I said, he's going to start dressing like, you know, the stud lesbians, the ones that kind of carry themselves more like a man. So he doesn't have to act like
a man.
Watch. Got you all figured out.
Right. I like I said, Dylan Mulvaney is just unnerving as a person and just grates me. It's when the nails on a chalkboard situation. I just can't stand the dude.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, I get like you're chasing clout, but like to go through all of this nonsense just to get to where you are is just way out there.
Imagine being like a father or a mother, and you know for a fact that your son is straight. You know. And all of a sudden you see these shenanigans. Imagine the embarrassment that the parents probably sat him down and was like, look,
Schadenfreude and secondhand embarrassment right there.
They're going to stop. No more. Yeah. I don't care if they pay you. You have to come up with something else.
You would think.
Maybe they're getting paid not to say something, but the truth always comes out, man. Always. You can't. It always comes out. You'll see.
And it should. Like I said, I think it's just dumb that this is the way society is, that we have to cater to these individuals that are just really weird. Just weird. Back, you remember when those were jokes in mainstay 90s shows and like early 2000s where they used to make fun of this stuff, and it was like, yeah, that's funny because there's no way that would actually happen in real life, and now all of the satire is becoming reality, and so now we're at Poe's Law.
I don't know who's like more annoying, him or Marsh. I don't know, man. That's kind of, you know, I think Mulvaney's a little more annoying than Jeffrey Marsh. Jeffrey Marsh is just creepy. Like, he's just real, like, creepy. Marsh is, like, really annoying. Like, let's play with these dolls. Come in my room. And he skips along and he's playing with dolls and stuff like a kid. I'm like, dude, what the heck's going on here? So, I don't know.
Yeah, so
this is satire. This is our opinion. Just know that.
But this is where we are in the world, is that this is basically Poe's Law, by the way. Poe's Law is an adage of internet culture saying that without a clear indicator of the author's intent, any parodic or sarcastic expression of extremist views can be mistaken by some readers for a certain expression of those views. Basically saying that unless it's otherwise stated, most people are gonna on the internet are gonna think that when you say something that is supposed to be sarcastic or fictional, people take it as literal, right? So that's where we are in society. You cannot distinguish satire from reality.
Yeah,
That's where we are.
And that's the world we live in. It's crazy how you could still post stuff from Babylon B. Everybody on the planet knows that Babylon B is a satire news site. Maybe every once in a while they'll put out something that's kind of truth, but 99% of the time it's satire, and people are still fact checking it and all this stuff.
I know, right?
Are you kidding me right now?
That's like South
people
Park.
can't tell the difference between satire and truth or serious or truth right now. They can't. They don't know how. And the reason that's happening is because they're so used to fake media. They're so used to the media putting out these false stories that their minds can't comprehend what is true and what it's satire.
Right.
Instead of using their critical thinking skills and saying, I figured it out by myself.
If you would have told somebody 10 years ago that Bud Light would be sponsoring a dude who thought he was a woman for Bud Light to sell more beers, they would be like, wait, you mean like they're going to do like a swimsuit edition or something like that? And it's like, no, I'm saying we're literally going to get a dude to be a woman, and then I'm going to sell you cans of beer with it. And you're like, that can't be real. Is that like a National Lampoon type of situation? Like it's SNL skit? What is that? You know, nobody would believe that stuff. Like you would think it was outlandish, but now in 2023, this is what the world reality is. 2013, most people are like, nah, that's stupid. Why would they do that? We told you it was coming. They were going to change the culture, and now we're here.
So changing the culture, this has been going on for many years. So you got to look at like Tu Wong Fu, Moulin Rouge, all this stuff that they've been putting out there, putting men in dresses, acting like women, Mrs. Doubtfire. All this is already, it was in our face. We just weren't, like you said, we weren't looking at it as this is going to be a real thing 10, 15, 20 years from now. We just looked at it as satire, it's comedy, it's a movie.
Right.
But
it was funny, but now
they
it's
were
not.
dropping those little nuggets in our brain, so when we actually saw it in the forefront, it'd be more acceptable to people.
Right.
It's all mind control, man. Mind control.
It's all brainwashing.
Yep.
To transition away from that, one of the things, like when it comes to mental health, there's one thing, like some things that we don't know and some things we do know. Apparently this next video was really good because I thought it was interesting in our line of work because of the military and veterans, of how like the links between heavy metal and mental health. I thought this was an interesting video. If it's going to play for me, there you go. Never mind. It's not going to play for me. I had it up.
Try it again because it is really good.
It is really good, but it's like
really good. And you know, while you're trying to fix that, this is some of the things anyone that's been deployed has probably experienced. We know they would use, especially in the early stages of the Iraq War, around the invasion and shortly after that, before the transitions, whenever you had a POW, they would play this music in the back of their vehicles, play Metallica, play all this heavy metal. You know, the certain hertz affect brainwaves, and it can make you go crazy, especially if you've never been around it. You know what I mean? Because of certain tones that affect your psyche, believe it or not.
That is so weird. Like, it's only that video. Like, I'm trying to pull up some of the other ones and it's working, but that one's not. And it's got like 2.5 million views on it too. Anyway, so basically what she was saying is that heavy metal music actually helps people in extreme situations, and that's one of the things that has helped veterans, especially when you're going on right before you're going on the patrol. It helps calm down the nerves, and that most people think that heavy metal actually like excites people, but for some people it actually calms them down. And so that's one of those things, is music being therapeutic, is that listening to certain types of music affects the brain differently. And so listening to music that helps your brain chemistry is always something that should help.
Yeah, I mean, if you dig deep into like different hertz of music, you know, we listen to the music, but a lot of people don't understand the hertz that are coming out into music. Certain hertz and certain sounds affect you differently. Like you talk about hertz of 528. 528 was taken out of music pretty much. That's a lot of when you
Mhm.
get to the Mozart, the classical music, all that stuff. Those hertz were considered a calming hertz of
Yep.
sound. And then I think it was the Rockefellers or somebody removed that
They changed the
tone.
hertz
They
frequencies,
changed the
yeah.
hertz and they changed the frequency to where you weren't getting that comforting tone when you were listening to that same type of music, unless
Mhm.
you can still find it, but music doesn't have that tone too much anymore. Now they have the
Right.
devil's tone.
We also have like RPMs affect the way that you feel about music as well too. So like a higher RPM will make you more amped, or certain ones lower will make you feel more calm. It just depends on the style of music that you're listening to. Which I found a really good one recently, which is synthwave metal. It sounds like 80s. It's like 80s metal almost. It's really good. If you have it on Spotify, check it out. It's
I
awesome.
will. I mean, and since we're talking about like sounds and hertz and everything
Mhm.
like that, you ever get those people that get irritated when they hear a rooster?
Yeah.
Or they hear birds chirping early in the morning. There's a purpose behind their doing it. Those birds are putting out certain hertz of sounds, believe it or not, that affect the trees, that affect the grass, that affect the plants. So everything works, when a rooster is doing his thing, the hertz that are coming out of his voice are telling people, hey, it's time to get up. And then, it's telling your brain that sound is affecting your brain, telling you it's time to get up, and it wakes you up. So
well, it's the same thing with people. Like, there's actually a mental condition where you hate certain sounds. So like the sound of people smacking or talking or swallowing or dogs chewing, any of those sounds that irritate you, that's an actual medical condition. I don't remember what it is specifically off the top of my head, but it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
That is true. I've heard of people that they freak out when you hear people smacking. But you know what I freak out about? What is that thing called where you can't stand the sight of like little holes? There's
no idea. That's oddly specific.
Yeah, there's a condition to where if you see something with a bunch of holes on it, and it's like I can't look at it. I'm just like, oh.
I will have to look it up, but I don't know, dude. But that's oddly specific, my friend.
Yeah, there is a condition.
So, the next video I wanted to play is a video game that's coming out. It's veteran related. This has been something that's been in the works for a really long time. It's called 6 Days in Fallujah, and this TikToker gives a really good breakdown of what it is.
Highly anticipated 4-player tactical co-op realistic FPS, 6 Days in Fallujah, has officially announced its release date, June 22nd. This game is inspired by the true events from 2004, when American forces battled Iraqi insurgents for control over the city of Fallujah. Gameplay involves a 4-player team set during the initial days of the push into the northern district of the city. Not only will you face a large number of rebels and a few civilians alongside your comrades, but you will also experience the passage of time in the real world, as well as weather conditions, military gear, and missions. These missions are based on specific true stories told by Americans and Iraqis who have experienced the war firsthand. A unique aspect of the game is that there is no linear path to victory. Whether indoors or outdoors, you can freely face challenges from all sides. Even enemies have the freedom to move around the battlefield, deploying various tactics against you. They will track, surround, ambush, launch coordinated attacks, and lure you into traps. Each time a mission starts, the map will regenerate, reshaping both the interior and exterior of buildings. Enemies will occupy new positions, and new threats will arise. Uncertainty is a constant companion. Much like in a real war, there's no heads-up display of remaining ammo, kill confirmations, or a health bar. You can only rely on tight cooperation with your squad. 6 Days in Fallujah is now available to add to your wish list, so gear up and get ready to dive into the fray with your mates on June 22nd. If you're into the game, don't forget to hit follow.
So yeah, I knew this game has been in development for a really long time. I mean, we're talking like 10 plus years, right? I heard about this way back in the early teens that this game was coming out. They'd been working on it for so long, but there was so much pushback on the game that it was going to be used as a army propaganda tool, or it was going to be this thing where they were only going to show like the heroic side of the U.S. military attacking Fallujah. And so that's why they added the insurgents portion of it. Like we're talking about Al-Qaeda in Iraq. That's what they were fighting in Fallujah. And it was one of the bloodiest battles in the war in Iraq, like in the initial push. And so I remember going to boot camp and them showing footage from the Fallujah push, right? You're muted, Mike. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so I remember seeing that footage and how devastating that attack was. I mean, it was one of the, like I said, it was one of the bloodiest battles in the war. So it's completely justifiable that people would be worried about this game, but I also think it's good because it can be used as a great training tool because of how the terrain changes differently, how the enemies react, that it's more realistic in these concepts. It's interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting game, and it shows more of the realities of what war is, and that it's not glory and glamour. The war is something that's dirty and very uncertain. It gives you anxiety. That's why people don't like Call of Duty glorifies war to a point that people think they can play Call of Duty and sign up and enlist, and that's not true. I think this game gives a more realistic opinion of what warfare actually is, and so that you have to be more dependent on communication, being tight knit with your group, and going into places with an uncertainty of what's going to happen. I think that's really good, but where it goes from here, I don't know. It's one of those things of like, it's good, but it's bad at the same time. I think people will always find excuses for it.
Well, you know me, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when, what was it? Call of Duty World War II came out. You remember that?
Yep.
And
I do.
It was pretty realistic. It had Ranger Bat in there. It had all these different battles in there. And that game was causing a lot of people, a lot of World War II vets that saw it to kind of have, these flashbacks of the experience, because a lot of it was pretty realistic, not all of it. So I can kind of see that happening, especially with the problem with post-traumatic stress these days with our generation of service members. You have to be very careful when you play this game, especially for guys that were actually there, that lost people, that saw their friends die there. You have to be very careful to understand that, for one, it's a video game.
Yep.
All right. For two, it's not real. Even though it's going to look real and you're going to see things and you're going to react to things, just you have to understand that it's not real. There's certain games I play today that I'm like, whoa, because it brings back memories. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh man, that looks familiar. You're just going to hear familiar sounds. You're going to see familiar things in the game, but you're not going to get the smells. You're not going to get, the heat. You're not going to get a lot of the things that you would get in that country. Two, don't be so critical on it.
Yeah.
Coy and I were talking about this earlier. It's 6 days in Fallujah, but there's going to be a lot of dialogue. There's going to be a lot of probably fluff in there. They do it all the time in movies. They're going to do it in video games. So don't be over dramatical saying that's not realistic or that wouldn't happen like that.
Here's one of the cool things about that. They're actually adding in interviews from people that were there in the game. So it's not just going to be straight up like we're just having cutscenes or whatever. We're actually going to see interviews from people that were in Fallujah from both sides, the Iraqis and the Americans.
That's good.
So I think it'd be a cool game. I've been hearing about, like I said, I heard about this for like years now. It's interesting to see it actually come out.
What platforms?
Whether it's a good, I think it should be every platform. I know it's on Steam right now. It might be. Right. I don't know. But right now it's on PC. Whether it goes into the other platforms, I don't know. But it'll be on Steam.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I hope it does. I think it'd be good to see all that. Well, one of the other things I wanted to talk about before we head into the more like news topics of the day is we got to talk about the renaming of all the forts in the United States. Like this guy is really good. I would actually love to interview him sometime on the not the Iraq, but the Ukraine war. He covers a lot of the stuff. He's a vet too. And he goes into really good detail on the naming and effects. And I'll stop in between the video and we can talk about it a little bit.
Across the country, with Fort Bragg being renamed today, June 2nd, to Fort Liberty. This isn't exactly breaking news, but with some of the renaming now underway, I thought it was worth mentioning to share what the new names would be and who the bases are named after. Now, as a quick background, the bases being renamed here were originally named after Confederate generals from the American Civil War. And most of that was done in the lead up to World War I as an effort to try to garner support from the local populations in the South. So here's what's being changed. In March, Fort Pickett was renamed Fort Barfoot after Technical Sergeant Van Barfoot, who received the Medal of Honor for his actions in Italy in 1944. During an attack on German positions, Barfoot volunteered to take point and subsequently destroyed 3 machine gun nests all by himself. Then, when Germany launched a counterattack, Barfoot destroyed one of those tanks before pushing further into enemy territory where he disabled a howitzer, at which point he returned to his unit where he helped evacuate 2 wounded soldiers to the rear. Barfoot was shortly thereafter promoted to second lieutenant and would go on to serve in the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Fort Rucker was renamed Fort Novosel on April 20th after Chief Warrant Officer Michael Novosel. Chief Novosel flew B-29s in World War II, but was then deemed too old to fly during the Korean War. So he left, joined the Army, and started flying helicopters. He completed 2 tours in Vietnam where he flew 2,534 missions, extracting 5,589 wounded personnel, including his own son. And to top it off, he was awarded the Medal of Honor for conducting 15 extractions to a hot LZ to evacuate a group of South Vietnamese soldiers. Seems like a good choice to name a base after. On April 20th.
No, he's not wrong about that, dude. Like that's pretty badass. Like doing that many missions, especially being that old in Vietnam. That's crazy, dude.
I mean, hey, I can get down with that. That one, the first 2, yeah, I can get down with those.
Okay, there's some more.
27th Fort Lee was renamed Fort Gregg Adams in honor of Lieutenant General Arthur Gregg and Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams. Lieutenant General Gregg is a veteran of the Vietnam War and was the first African American to reach the rank of lieutenant general when he was promoted in 1977. Lieutenant Colonel Adams was the first African American woman to serve in the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps and later commanded the 1st Battalion of African American women to serve overseas during World War II. On May 9th, Fort Hood became Fort Cavazos after General Richard Cavazos, who served as a company commander in Korea and a battalion commander in Vietnam. And during each of those conflicts, Cavazos was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, a valor award second only to the Medal of Honor. Then in 1982, Cavazos became the first Hispanic American to be promoted to 4-star general when he took over U.S. Army Forces Command. On May 11th, Fort Benning was renamed Fort Moore after Lieutenant General Hal Moore and his wife, Julia. Now, Lieutenant General Moore is best known for his actions as the battalion commander of 17 Cav during the Battle of the Ia Drang Valley in the Vietnam War. And his book recounting that battle with Joey Galloway, We Were Soldiers Once and Young, personally is one of my all-time favorites. His wife Julia is mentioned here as well for her role in kind of reshaping the process for how families of the fallen were notified. At this time, during the Vietnam War, it was just a telegram that would show up at somebody's doorstep notifying that their husband, son, or father had been killed, sometimes even delivered by a taxi driver. So Mrs. Moore successfully advocated for a formalized system that included a service member in dress uniform present to present that tragic news to the family.
Could you imagine that, getting your like death notification via taxi driver?
Oh yeah,
that is insane.
I don't see how they would even think that was okay. But yeah, I can get down. I can get down on Hal Moore. I actually met Hal Moore at
Really?
I met him at First ID when I was stationed at Fort Riley. We had a dining out, and he was the guest speaker there.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Pretty legit. He used to always be at Fort Benning though, doing book signings. Like I was there for a couple schools, and they'd be like, "Hey, you know, Hal Moore is going to be at Building 4 or whatever they got. I don't know what they call it now, but it's Building 4. And if you got the book, he's going to be signing books." I didn't have my book.
No, that's awesome. I like getting signed copies of books anytime you get a chance. They're always nice to have.
And the system that we have today is largely built upon the work that she started. Now back to Fort Bragg, which again, as of today, is Fort Liberty. That's not named after an individual, but a value, and it's the only name change to go that route. Fort Gordon doesn't have a date yet, but it's set to become.
Okay, come on, dude. Like, seriously? Like, just naming it Fort Liberty just because, like, well, we ran out of good names. Like, come on. Like, you had all these good lead-ups, and then you're like, nah, Fort Liberty. We just gave up on naming.
I mean, you had Patton. You have, what's his name? From World War II. Well, no, I wouldn't name it after that guy. To hell and back. What's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
After that.
Yeah, I forget. Dang, brain
that's
fart.
like I said, it's one of those things. Is like I got lazy with the last ones. Like we did really good on the first ones, but Fort Liberty is fine. But
Audie
like,
Murphy.
Isn't Bragg one of the biggest bases out there for the Army too?
No. It's big, but it's not the
I mean,
biggest.
I don't mean big, but like famous.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like big as a big name.
It's one of the most well-known military installations, and
it's like if they rename Camp Pendleton to something stupid, right?
Yeah. If when I was there, it was called Fort Bragg was called the center of the universe because nothing would happen in the Army unless Fort Bragg knew
exactly.
about
That's what I mean. So they went and named all these cool bases after really awesome dudes, and they're like, "Yeah, for Bragg, just F you, Liberty."
I guarantee
there you go. That's your new name.
I guarantee the 82nd alumni and all them, they were like, nope, because there was probably a big fight because a lot of paratroopers are in Medal of Honors, probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they were like, if it's going to be named something, for one, it's going to be a paratrooper. I guarantee this is probably what they were talking about. They weren't going to just name some tanker Fort Bragg after some tanker. It was going to be named either Special Operations, Green Beret, Delta Force, or 82nd Paratrooper. And they probably just couldn't figure out who they wanted. They were probably arguing. Green Berets were saying it should be their guy. Delta Force were saying it should be their guy. 82nd, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, you know what? We're just going to call it Fort Liberty.
Yeah, it just got bogged down in bureaucray. Okay, I get that. I get that excuse.
Yeah,
I get that.
Guaranteed.
Let's finish the
Fort Eisenhower, named after General Dwight D. Eisenhower. And I'm not sure how much needs to be said about that, man. I mean, leading Allied forces in the liberation of Europe and then returning home to become president of the United States, I'd say that's enough to get a base named after you. Yeah. Fort A.P. Hill will become Fort Walker, named after Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, who during the Civil War became the first female surgeon in the U.S. Army and the only female recipient of the Medal of Honor. Mm-hmm. And lastly, in terms of bases at least, Fort Polk will become Fort Johnson after Sergeant William Henry Johnson. Sergeant Johnson fought with the 369th Infantry Regiment, or the Harlem Hellfighters, in World War I. And while he was in France, he fought off a German raid, killing multiple enemy soldiers, mostly in hand-to-hand combat, while suffering 21 wounds himself. Now, for that action, he received a French award, but nothing from the United States. Then eventually, long after Johnson's early death in 1929, President Clinton awarded him posthumously the Purple Heart, which it's kind of crazy. He didn't even get that at the time, right?
Yeah.
Finally, in 2015, Sergeant Johnson was awarded the Medal of Honor with the Command Sergeant Major of the New York National Guard accepting on his behalf. During the presentation, President Obama stated, quote, "The least we can do is say, we know who you are, we know what you did, we are forever grateful." Now, also in this process, they're not getting nearly as much attention, is that streets on military installations named after Confederate leaders will also be renamed, as will a few U.S. Navy ships. The USS Chancellorsville, which was named after Confederate victory, will be renamed after Robert Smalls. During the Civil War, Smalls worked on a Confederate warship, and on May 13th, 1862, on a night when the crew's families were permitted to visit on the ship, Smalls commandeered the ship in Charleston Harbor and sailed straight through to the Union blockade, where he handed over the warship, having brought the crew and their families to freedom.
That's a cool
Additionally,
story,
the USNS Maury, an oceanographic survey ship, which was named after Matthew Maury, a man who resigned his commission to join the Confederate Navy, was renamed in March after Marie Tharp. Now, Tharp is most known for her efforts in producing the first scientific map of the Atlantic Ocean floor.
Nice.
Very nice.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with the people that they're naming after them, except for like Fort Liberty. That's the only one I have an issue with. It's just, I know they're doing this for woke reasons. That's the thing that irritates me about it, is that it would be fine if we're like, hey, we want to revamp the military naming because we want to highlight like leadership and people that were heroes in our time, right, within the last 100 years, instead of something that was previously done, which is like over 100 years ago, the Confederacy, Union, whatever. That's fine. I would have been perfectly fine with that if you went that route, but we know that this is all activism in order to change names that have Confederate names, which I do. It's just really annoying that it has to be for a woke reason instead of just continuing on military legacy. That's the thing that I have an issue with.
And you know, it's pretty easy to see that it is for woke reasons. For me, you know, I know there's a lot of veterans out there, and I see the Facebook, you know, chatter, and I see it all. I'm all over the place. And there's people actually upset about it. Me, I don't get too wrapped around, you know, the axle on it, because for one, I got a DD-214, you know.
Yep.
My voice really don't matter.
It's
so
all right.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? But, you know, the old school people that I can see where they're coming from. You know, if you deploy with the 82nd and you lost people and you died under that name, and you people died under that name, under that flag, under those colors, I can see why people get upset. And that goes along with every installation. If someone actually died under those colors, they were good enough to fight under that name, under that person's name, but now you're saying it wasn't good enough, you know, and you can play it like that. So you're saying when we fought under the banner of Fort Bragg, our fighting really didn't mean anything, but you sent us there under this banner. Yeah. You know, so you can see why people probably get upset, but you know, there's a lot of veterans out there that, you know, have common sense and can see past it all, and are just like, it is what it is, man. Move on. You'll forget about it next year. Promise you.
Yeah. And Barbara says, thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
But like I said, it's true. It's just before we move on to the main topic today, it's just that last words for that is, if they did things for proper reasons, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But like I said, because they're doing it for woke reasons, it really just tarnishes what they're trying to do.
Yes.
In my opinion. And so you will always get pushback with that, instead of just saying, hey, we're doing it to highlight figures that are more contemporary for naming the bases.
I mean, I would have threw Audie Murphy in the mix. You know, me personally, I would have threw him, even though they say that I'm not even going to talk about it. But yeah, he would have been a good choice outside of his personal life. But what he did, you know, what he did, General Patton's another one. You know what I mean?
Patton would have been a good one too.
That would have been a good one. You know, they didn't talk about some other bases, but we'll see.
Yeah. So to get anyone in the main topic today, we want to talk about Joe Biden being a potato. He took a really rather bad spill, and this TikTok actually really brings
look at how he steps and look how I step. Watch how I run up ramps and he stumbles down ramps. Okay, come on.
Yeah.
He's at the Air Force Academy. He actually fell down. Well, I hope he wasn't hurt. I hope he wasn't hurt. But it's the whole thing is crazy. You got to be careful about that. You got to be careful about that, because you don't want that. Even if you have to tiptoe down a ramp, you got to.
You got to tiptoe. You got to tiptoe.
And we know what he's talking about. You remember how they all made fun of him, you know, because he's an elderly man and he was tiptoeing, taking it slow down a ramp, and the media,
because it was raining. It was raining. It was literally wet,
and the media attacked him for it. They went after him, talked about his health, talked about he's old, talked about this. Joe Biden has three nemesis: bikes, ramps, and sandbags.
Right.
You know.
And Hunter Biden. That's
and Hunter Biden.
and Hunter Biden. Dude, the best video I've seen about like explaining how crazy the world we live in with Joe Biden being an absolute potato is this video of telling him to wake up. It's absolutely gold money, on point.
It's incredible.
Gloriousness.
Here, but I look to Dr. Sherwood. Are we moving?
Joe Biden. Wake up.
What's that?
Joe Biden, wake up. Now you're living.
One of the things that I strongly believe is
Joe Biden. Wake up.
I should probably go home.
Who is that?
It's Joe Biden.
No, it's not. I don't look like
Joe
Joe Biden.
Biden.
Oh, that looks like a real.
Joe.
I'm tired. What's happening?
Joe Biden.
What's happening?
Joe.
Wake up.
Hello, Mr. President. Wake up.
See, that's a different Joe Biden.
Pay nearly $6,400 more.
He woke up though.
Today.
Wake up.
It's brilliant.
Did you get the one I sent you?
Yeah, I did.
That was hilarious.
I know, but that one was way too long. It's like 20-minute compilation of all of the things that he's done over the years. It's crazy. But I did get the other one that you showed, which I would totally believe actually happened on stage. I gotta make sure.
Hilarious.
Please receive this closing prayer. God, those were such. Please receive this.
I believe it. I believe it. I absolutely
mean,
believe he did that.
Didn't Adler poop himself?
Oh yeah.
Why do all these guys poop their pants like that?
Did poop my pants.
I'm a potato.
He is an absolute potato. But so is Hunter Biden, dude. Because they are now claiming that Hunter Biden has justification for what he did because of the Second Amendment, right? They're claiming that in the major legal defenses stemming from the ruling past 6 years, like it was a couple of years ago they passed this, that pertains to certain gun right ownerships. They're basically coming down to saying that he can get away with this because it's a violation of the Second Amendment that he had to, that this is why he should get away with it, right? With lying on the federal form. So he buys a gun and lies on the federal form saying that he was not partaking in any illicit drugs. And anybody that has ever bought a gun ever in their life knows that on that federal background check, you have to put on there if you are taking any substances you're not supposed to, like crack cocaine, which he has admitted multiple times, and even in his book, that he was on crack at the time that he purchased that handgun. Right? So, right? That's true. I've seen that too. The reason that the Biden administration is talking about AI is so they can deny anything related to the laptop. Yeah. I can agree with that.
Yep.
Absolutely. But like I said, like they're for the gun grabbing individuals in the Democratic Party, they are using the Second Amendment as a way to shield Hunter Biden from prosecution from the federal government. Even though it is not related to him buying the gun itself, it's the fact that he lied on a federal form. That is the crime that he admitted, not the fact that he bought the gun. We can talk about disposing of a gun behind a school in a dumpster, totally different thing, but lying on a federal form is illegal. You can't say, hey, I do X when you're signing that background check, right? When you, in fact, know it is a lie. He was on drugs at the time and he lied, and that's why he's getting charged. But now they're saying, well, it's a violation of the Second Amendment.
And, you know, what's funny that you brought up the Second Amendment, they're trying to shield him with the Second Amendment for what he did.
Yep.
You have Americans who haven't did anything, and they're trying to take our Second Amendment. You see how that works? You see how they
every single time
they protect their own, they protect these elites with the same rights they're trying to take from us. That should be an eye opener, America. I don't understand how people just don't see it. Like, we're getting played. We're being played for fools.
Every single time, man.
Hey, as long as I do crack and lie on my form, I should be protected too. So every American should go out and do the same exact thing and see what happens. See what happens.
Yeah. Lie on that background check when you buy a gun and see what happens if they catch you lying about it.
Real quick. And you can bring up, well, Hunter Biden did it. Well, don't worry about Hunter Biden. That's okay.
The Hunter Biden defense, that's going to fly, right? It's like, oh, it's against the Second Amendment that I have to take this background check and I can't lie on it.
The wall.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, now we have to use Hunter Biden as the savior of the Second Amendment, which is funny.
Well, you know,
in my opinion.
Thank you, Hunter Biden, but you're still a piece of crap.
I know, right? If you save the Second Amendment for us, I would be happy, but you still should go to jail for lying on a federal form and then dumping the gun behind a school. I mean, you can't really get around that fact, obviously. But hey,
doing a whole bunch of weird things. You know, we're going to talk about it on our next podcast, but some other stuff came up about Hunter Biden.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. And the last topic before we get off here tonight, I wanted to talk about this video that my wife sent me a while back, and it's about the interesting prospect of if you're shepherding your kids or if you are engineering your kids. Take a listen. It's really good.
Listen carefully. You need to understand something that parents these days have long since forgot and are going to have to relearn again. Your grandparents knew this, but today's generation of parents doesn't seem to. And that is, you do not get to design your children. Nature would never have permitted that to happen. Evolution would not have allowed a generation of a species to be so influenced by the previous generation. It hasn't happened, and it doesn't happen, and it especially doesn't happen in children. You do not design your children. And yet we have the Mozart effect, the belief that if I play classical music to my uterus when I'm pregnant, I'm going to have a genius. The fact that if I can just put enough crib toys over his crib, he is going to have all these neurons exploding with synapses and be a brilliant mathematician. You don't get that degree of power. Right? Does that mean stimulation doesn't matter? No. It means a stimulation environment is better than a deprived environment. But it doesn't mean that the more stimulation you add into the environment, the better it gets. It's a threshold. There is enough stimulation that every normal brain needs to develop. And once you're past that, which 98% of you are, the rest of it is out of your hands.
That's right.
But this idea that if a little bit is good, a ton of it must be better is a uniquely North American perspective. Right? Believe me, the French don't look as kindly on their children as we do. Right? That's another story for another day.
Yeah, the French.
Hey, I
so
dig the
what
French.
we have learned in the last 20 years of research in neuroimaging, behavior genetics, developmental psychology, neuropsychology can be boiled down to this phrase. Your child is born with more than 400 psychological traits that will emerge as they mature, and they have nothing to do with you. So the idea that you are going to engineer personalities and IQ and academic achievement skills and all these other things just isn't true. Your child is not a blank slate on which you get to write. If you would like to read more about this, please read Steven Pinker's book, The Blank Slate, which is a review of all of this information for parents and why it isn't true. The better view is that your child is a genetic mosaic of your extended family, which means this is a unique combination of the traits that run in your family line. I like the shepherd view. You are a shepherd. You don't design the sheep. The engineering view makes you responsible for everything. Everything that goes right and everything that goes wrong. This is why parents come to us with such guilt, more guilt than we've ever seen in prior generations. Because parents today believe that it's all about them and what they do. And if they don't get it right, or if their child has a disability, they've done something wrong. When in fact, the opposite is true. This has nothing to do with your particular brand of parenting. So I would rather that you stop thinking yourself as an engineer and step back and say, I am a shepherd to a unique individual. Shepherds are powerful people. They pick the pastures in which the sheep will graze and develop and grow. They determine whether they're appropriately nourished. They determine whether they're protected from harm. The environment is important, but it doesn't design the sheep. No shepherd is going to turn a sheep into a dog. Ain't going to happen. Right?
That's
and yet
right.
that is what we see parents trying to do all the time, and especially parents of children with disabilities. So step back and view yourself as the shepherd to this disabled youngster, and you get to design the pasture, and that's very important, but you don't engineer the sheep. Now, that comes with it a profoundly freeing view of parenting, because what it means is, although it's important to be a shepherd, recognizing that this is a unique individual before you allows you to enjoy the show, right? So open a bottle of Chardonnay, kick off your slippers, sit back and watch what takes place, right? Because you don't get to determine this, right? So enjoy it. It doesn't last all that long anyway. They're gone before you know it, right? But if you think that what you did in your house is going to shape the life course of this individual, you are sadly mistaken, right? This is a unique individual. Let them grow, let them prosper. Please design appropriate environments around them, but you don't get to design them. As Judy Harris said in 1996, in the first book on this subject written for lay people, the book is called The Nurture Assumption. As she said, you had more to do with your child's life by where you chose to live than by anything you will ever do inside that home. Short of abuse, neglect, or malnutrition, the rest of it is just trivial variation. It's where you live. Why? Because out-of-home influences are more powerful in shaping the life course of your child than in-home influences are. And those out-of-home influences are peer groups, other adults, neighborhoods, resources, schools, and the larger community that you made available to this child. That is how you shape your child's life course. The second biggest influence is also out of your hands, and that's genetics. And you don't get to determine that. But if you think parenting is so influential, let me give you two findings that have been replicated many times. When we follow up twins, we are able to calculate how much of their behavior is due to parenting within family environment. And here's what we find. The peak years of parental influence are below 7. From 7 on to 12, it drops dramatically. After 15, it's 6%. 6% of the variation in a teenager's behavior is how their parents raised them. That's it. And after age 21, it's 0. There is no influence of parenting on any psychological trait after the age of 21. Now, do not mistake what I'm saying. The knowledge your child possesses, what they know, is clearly a function of exposure in the environment. But their traits, their abilities, their makeup, their personality is not.
Powerful stuff, man.
That's very powerful. I can relate to that. You know, I posted something a couple months ago about how parenting today, they pass their trauma down to their kids.
Yep.
You know, so all the trauma that the parents have, and all of us have some sort of childhood trauma, whatever, life trauma. We tend to push that down to our
Yeah.
kids, which creates
sure.
more trauma, then you create more trauma. But I totally agree, because I have a kid, you have a kid,
Yeah.
and my son lives in 2 different households, and this. So he comes
Yeah.
here, so you can, his mother, I'm not putting her down or anything, but she does try to be what he was talking about. She tries to turn him into something that she wants.
Yeah,
So when
engineering.
she's engineering him to be something, to be a certain way, to do something outside, and she does take care of him and all that stuff. But when he comes here, I allow him to be who he wants to be. I'm feeding him. I'm taking care of him. I'm protecting him. I'm doing all the things a parent's supposed to do, but it's hands off for me. Outside of him trying to hurt himself, he has to figure that out. And I totally agree, man. I got to post that video. That was great.
It's good information, because I think a lot of people make the mistake of wanting to micromanage. Like, you remember the military and how certain NCOs would micromanage the hell out of their lower enlisted, right? It's the same thing with parenting. If you were trying to treat your children as a NCO would treat the lower enlisted, you're probably doing it wrong, right? Yes. You should be guiding. Children aren't little soldiers. They're little individual people, right? And you have to let them grow appropriately. Like you said, you give them guidance, you give them the field to graze in, and you let them grow necessarily. You can instill your values, you can instill your morals and those things. But at the end of the day, you don't, like you said, you don't get to decide a lot of the factors that go into children. Like, when you have children, it is amazing the fact that they come out the way that they do in the first place, right? The miraculousness of childbirth in itself is crazy. The amount of variables that go into just a person becoming into being in the first place, right? Let alone all the other things that we think we can control. That's the biggest mistake I think people make, is thinking they control everything, and you can't. There's a lot of things that you have to just kind of let go of, especially coming from me and my situation of losing a child because of a heart disease, right? He was born the way he was born because of a genetic defect. There was literally nothing I could do. And I had to accept the fact that there was nothing I could do to fix him. There was literally nothing as a parent. And that is the worst kind of situation I would never wish on any parent in their life, is knowing that your son's going to die and there's nothing you can do about it. That is the worst feeling in the world. But at the same time, you have to, in situations like that, you have to accept things are out of your control. The universe and God does not let you make the rules. You just have to play the cards that you're dealt the best that you can. And that's the best advice I can give families and parents, is that sometimes you just have to say, this is out of my control. The only things I can do is guide my children properly and let them grow. And just be there for them.
There's that old saying, I grew up in a household where they were very strict.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they gave us some rope to go and do things, but we were mainly like shielded from any outside influence.
Yeah.
And then, when I got older and moved out, joined the military, a lot of stuff was a culture shock to me. You know what I mean? I was kind of like, oh, y'all, you guys do this, you guys do that. And you don't want it to be a culture shock, because like the gentleman said in the video, they're going to learn from outside influence, and you don't want them figuring it out late. You know what I mean? So you don't want them running into some bad people, and that's their first real, where you let them go, and their interaction is just a horrible, horrible person, and that's going to mold them. Outside influence is going to mold them more than parents do. That's a fact.
Especially in today's society. You think about it. How many parents actually are in the home with their children? Like, how many times a day do you actually get to spend time with your children? If you really honestly sit down and analyze your life and think about it for yourself, when do you actually get to spend time with your children? How many hours a day? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? Is it 30 minutes? How much are you actually spending with your children? So those environmental factors, children are teaching other children, especially today. They are going to learn everything that they learn in school from other children versus adults. That is the thing that is the most terrifying if you really think about it. But there's nothing you can do about that, because it's out of your control, because you have to work, you have to provide for them, you have to give them shelter. So what do? You have to instill in them the proper things and enlighten them and guide them. You can't make them do things. You can take that authoritarian approach, but sometimes guiding is just enough, right? You have to trust them as much as you can.
And so also social media is another big influence these days. When I was growing up, Coy was growing up, we didn't have all this social media influence. Nowadays, these kids can look up anything they want. you know, and they can watch a ton of videos on YouTube. So that's another outside influence. So like, you can't, you're not going to stop how your kid ends up in the long run. You know what I mean? It's all genetics.
Right.
Like my brother and I grew up in the same house, same parents, same grandparents, same rules, same everything. My brother became the felon. I didn't.
Yeah.
We grew up the same. We were really close in age, same everything. But genetics, and on that side of my dad's side of the family, that's part of them. That crime and drugs and all that stuff is part of that side of the family. My brother genetically was drawn to that. No matter how much he was punished, no matter how much he was whipped, no matter how much control they tried to have over us, he still went where the universe told him to go.
Like I said, you just have to do the best you can when it comes to parenting. Like, not everything's going to go the way you want, and then beating yourself up at the end of the day because you didn't do everything properly is like nobody has the rule book, man.
Yeah.
Like no parent has the rule book, and you know that. Like you can just do what the best you can. Like you said, other outside of like abuse and neglect and those things, as long as you're not doing those and you're not abusing your kids and you're actually being a good guide to your children, things will turn out all right.
That's right.
But then if it doesn't, like, it's not necessarily your fault. Some things are just out of your control when it comes to genetics. And that's something that you have to live with.
Hey, the universe works in mysterious ways, man. Just let it flow because you're not going to stop it. The universe already has a plan. It's already there. Yep. So look at it like that. You know that old saying, I know we got to get off here, but you know, they say that God already has your life written in a book. So no matter what you try to do to change it, it's pretty much set in stone how your life is going to go. That's the same thing. That if you put it in context like that, you're not going to stop what God has already said is going to happen.
Yeah,
said it's going to happen.
There's another way to put that too. Is one of the things that people misunderstand is like holding on to a two-edged sword will always hurt you, right? So instead of holding on to things, sometimes it's better to just let go. So if you keep holding on to that two-edged sword, it's going to keep cutting you. And if you just let go, the pain will stop. And that's the same way it is with everything in life, right? Sometimes letting go is the best option that you can do. And the only way it's going to keep hurting you is if you keep holding on to it. And that's the bit of advice I can give people is just like sometimes just letting go is the best option.
And you're right, real quick, you know, with my son being 18 now, that's something I had to figure out. You know, I can't be worrying about him, calling him 10 times a day, checking his phone, find out what he's doing. He's 18. And like Coy said, you got to let it go, man. You know, if he needs guidance, he'll call me. If he needs help, he'll call me. He'll ask. But me hovering over him, it's not going to change the outcome for what the universe has already decided for him.
Exactly. Good words to live by. Well, that's going to be it for the show tonight. We're going to be live Sundays at 6 every Sunday. You can follow us at the Hooch Podcast as always. And then if you are needing any fun games as well, you can go to Insta Gaming in our link tree and find that to save yourself some money, help out the show and all that. You can find us tomorrow as well at the Sevens Patriots. Those who watch both of these places, go there, check it out. Have a lot of fun. We'll have a good show for you. Monday, what are we talking about again? Or have we decided?
I think it was, we did decide. We had to get away from one topic that we were going to, we're talking about what is a woman, remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about the Twitter censorship and that stuff.
Yeah, you guys will see you'll see the thumbnail or the poster when we promote it.
So definitely go there, check it out. We'll be there tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern time. I always mess that up because it's 5:30 here for me in Central time, and Michael as well. But yeah, we'll be over there, Savage Patriots, and always you can find us every Sunday at 6. Anyway,
hey, and real fast, like, copy, share. Make sure you share the Hooch,
flip and share
the Savage. Share the Rumble page and just post it on your page. It might resonate with someone. Don't be afraid to post these links, and make sure you go to our merch shop on the Hooch. Go to our merch shop on the Savage Patriots. We do have a merch shop also, so make sure you guys check it out.
Yeah, just go into the link tree in the description, and you can find all of our social medias and our affiliate pages as well as our shop for the merch. Anyway, that'll be it for us this week in America. We love you, and we're out.